All right. Good morning, everyone. This is a lot of friendly faces. Actually, I'm pretty sure I know or have met almost everyone in here. It's a small group, but we are going to record this and be able to share it with other small businesses. So as we're doing this, be thinking about who else needs this information. I am no expert in all of these things, but I know the experts, and so I wanted to bring people together to help you all and to help all of us to keep small businesses afloat. We're going to get through this together, and it's an interesting time where the government at the local, the state, and the federal level is going to need to step in to help small businesses. And I wanted to host this, and I'm so grateful to the chamber for partnering on this, because it can be hard when you're used to making things happen for yourself and for your own business to reach out and ask for help. But that's very much what we need everyone to do. It's not a time to be shy about asking for the resources that are out there. And so we have Tulsa, we have Oklahoma, and we have United States federal government resources available. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share some slides that I have put together, and just so that I can briefly go through these. And let's see if this works.
Councilor, would you like me to share them?
It looks like right now what you all see is, okay. Let's see, is that working? Can you all see small business supports?
We cannot, Councilor.
Okay, well, this is my first time trying to do this. So it may be that I have to send the slides back your way later. So I'll just go through and let you know a little bit about what's on here. And then if we figure out a way to put the slides up later, we will do so. And we will definitely email them out to you either way. So as you know, we have an order from the city of Tulsa that Tulsans are safer at home, and this expanded beyond what the governor said, not to just people in so-called vulnerable categories that are 60 and older, that have some sort of immunocompromised situation, or who have some other illness, but to everyone, because we know everyone can get sick and can spread it to others. The governor yesterday did put forward that he is ready to expand his order to all 77 counties. It may still not go far enough, and as many of you know, I have been advocating to the governor to do more to really help us take responsibility as a whole state to slow down the transmission. We'll see how that goes. There will be a special session of the state legislature starting on Monday to figure that out. But what the big announcement that I wanted to make sure you all heard about this week was the Resilience and Recovery Fund from TulsaResponds.org. And I'm going to turn it over to Clay. Clay, could you tell us a little bit more about what this fund does and why it's here?
Sure. So I'll introduce myself. My name is Clay Hulk. I'm a senior policy advisor for small business, entrepreneurship, and economic innovation in the mayor's office. So Councilor McKee really hit on the fact that we sort of have three different levels of aid which are currently working their way through the system. The federal government has two programs, both being administered by the Small Business Administration specifically for small businesses and for nonprofits. The state government is currently working on its response, and we expect to see something soon with regard to that. And then city government has also stepped in to help where we can. So we announced the Business Resilience and Recovery Fund. The mayor announced it on Wednesday, I believe. Business Resilience and Recovery Fund, which is a $1.1 million fund. It provides zero interest loans for small businesses. This money can be used for working capital, can be used for payroll. So there are some differences with the federal we needed to have a local program. I'll start by saying that the CARES Act, which was the legislation, the federal legislation that's made its way through last week, that has $349 billion in two different programs, each of which have $349 billion for assisting small business. We do not anticipate that we are going to be the primary source of aid. What we are looking to do is we want to patch up a couple of the places where we think that there are potential weaknesses, where we think there are some areas that need to be fixed with the federal aid. So through tulsaresponds.org, we, in coordination with the George Kaiser Family Foundation, have brought on a group of, we're calling them navigators. So these are oftentimes finance professionals, oftentimes PAs, folks who know business, who can talk about the business and tax implications of what these aid programs mean for small businesses and for nonprofits. It's very simple. You go on and you fill out the contact information, and then we have one of our navigators, get back in touch with you. This is quite frankly such a excuse me, such a confusing and fast moving landscape. There is new guidance that's coming out a couple of times a day, actually. And so we are very much trying to stay on top of it. But we also recognize that as small business folks, you need to get the information as quickly and efficiently as possible. And so we are making sure that that we can be that trusted voice for you. So like I said, two federal government programs, and also one local program with state aid still to be determined. There are also private sources via the Tulsa Community Foundation and Tulsa Area United Way. Also the Lobeck-Taylor Family Foundation has sources of aid there, but this is specifically, the Business Resilience and Recovery Fund is specifically meant to support small businesses here in the city of Tulsa.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Clay. I want to go through just a little bit of what I have found at the state level. And as you mentioned, there will be more resources coming from the state. Rhonda mentioned to me via text message that the slides are up now where you can see them. Yes, I think Marissa was able to share them. Is that right, Marissa? You got the slides? Ta-da! All right. So moving on. You all will receive these slides in an email as well, and that's some more information about what Clay just said, the link there. So moving on to Oklahoma, Marissa, let's move one more. Perfect. So if you go to the Oklahoma Commerce webpage, it's a great one-stop shop for links to all sorts of different resources. There are so many different ways, and I recommend that everyone go to this webpage and take a look. Next slide. Marissa, there we go. There are recurring weekly webinars for every industry, and they're happening every week. So there are webinars to help specifically with the work that you are doing. And I'm hopeful that these are great webinars and are extremely helpful. Next slide. Oklahoma Works can help you help your employees navigate, or yourself navigate, getting the applying for unemployment and for other workforce needs that you have. And again, these are all links on that Oklahoma Commerce page. Next slide. The Oklahoma Center for Nonprofits has a lot of specific information for nonprofits. They also have a really great jobs board. So if you've got people who need to get another job, this is a great place to send them. Next slide. And the CDC is linked on there as well. And they have posters that you can download and print and put up at your place of business to help remind people what it is that we're trying to do here to flatten the curve, to slow down the virus. Next slide, Marissa. finally, the Main Street America, that's our Main Street program that has helped Kendall Whittier and will be helping Greenwood and several of the other Main Street programs that we have coming on. They have some specific small business resources on that page. And again, these are all on the Oklahoma Commerce website. Just clicking through there, you can find a lot of resources. And I encourage everyone to take advantage of any and all programs that are out there, because it's going to be the kind of situation where we need to cobble together help, but we really need your businesses to stay afloat. And so I don't want anyone to be shy about reaching out for all of the help that you can get. Next slide.
Councilor, if I can just add one other resource as well. The city of Tulsa has put together on our homepage the coronavirus resource center. It's just a link on the homepage as well. And we put it together really in thinking that we were going to have a couple of different responses that we need to make. Obviously, I think as you've pointed out, one is the public health response, and the most important at this time is the public health response. The second is really around the aid resources that we have locally, that we have at the national level and state level. And then I'd say the third is really in thinking about employees. And so those who have been negatively affected by the coronavirus. And so that has a lot of links for helping people to get social services. It has links for helping people to apply for unemployment insurance, for example. So I haven't seen all of the websites that you mentioned, so I can't necessarily say that we cover all of those, but I would mention the City of Tulsa's coronavirus resource page is another good one.
Thank you, Clay. And I can't believe I didn't put the slide in here, because it's the page that I'm sharing the most on my social media right now. It really is a great page. That the City of Tulsa has been such a leader. I think all of us have seen that we can feel really safe in Tulsa, while some other municipalities and states aren't necessarily covering all the bases. We are on it. Our mayor will be and Commissioner Keith will be on a press conference again today at noon, really leading the charge in making sure that we are really safe here in Tulsa. I am also in the process of working out a way to make some yard signs with that information about that City of Tulsa webpage to put out in our neighborhoods for people who maybe aren't getting all the information and the accurate facts on the internet or on TV, because we really need to get to everyone. I will make those available for your businesses as well if you'd like to put one up. I know that Resilient Tulsa is also putting up some specific informational signs at restaurants and grocery stores and whatnot this week. So we're really trying to cover all of our bases and get that information out there. I also wanted to, a lot of going to the national level, the U.S. Small Business Administration is where you register your business to be able to access that aid. And I am not best able to speak to that, but I do have the manager of government relations for the Cherokee Nation available to explain all of what is going on with the federal level. Jean Perry, I'm going to switch places with you and let you come in here and use my video screen and explain that real quick. I'll be right back.
Hi. So I've been participating in some calls and a lot of research around the small business loans specifically that are out in the new CARES Act. And what this is really designed to do is to maintain the relationship between small businesses and their employees to be able to continue covering payroll costs over an 8-week period. And importantly, these are loans that if you spend them all on payroll costs with another part of it being available for some of your utilities and mortgage interest, then they will be forgiven entirely. So you won't have to pay back the funds. If you have a relationship with an existing banker, that's really the easiest way to get these loans. They're really trying to get them out quickly. There's not a lot of underwriting requirements. There's not any collateral requirement, but the banks trying to kind of spin this up and do it is probably going to be the big stumbling block. So if you have a relationship with a bank already, that is going to make it easier for you and them. If not, banks that are giving out Small Business Administration 7A loans already, those are going to be the most prepared to give out these kinds of loans. And basically what it would cover is 2.5 times your average monthly payroll cost, with some of the extra being to be used for utilities. I mentioned mortgage interest, that includes phone, that includes electric, that includes internet. And so they're really trying to make it so businesses can basically keep paying their staff is the primary goal of that program. And that is the small gist of it. I'll see if, okay, here they come.
And I'll also add in a couple of points here, and Elizabeth Osborne is on the call, and she can certainly keep me honest. There are there's a second federal program, which is an expansion of the economic injury disaster loans. And that program is slightly different, where the first program they were talking about is meant primarily for payroll, for folks to continue to have to keep their payroll at the level that it was at before the coronavirus struck. The second one is really meant more for, I'd say, working capital. That one is designed a little bit differently. Like I said, the folks at Tulsa Response are able to walk you through the distinctions between those, and we can provide some more information. But I think one important point that was just made there is it's very, very helpful if you can do a little bit of homework in the meantime, and you can start preparing your financial statements or finding your financial statements. So much of the aid is going to be dependent on, and this is true on both the federal level and on a state level, can you demonstrate that you have had a loss due to the coronavirus or due to COVID-19? So if you are able to show, based on revenue, based on accounts receivable, whatever the case might be, year on year, or even I think even quarter on quarter, that you can demonstrate that you have had a sustainable loss, then that certainly helps with the provision of the loans. The loans that were previously talked about around the paycheck it's the PPP loans is what it's called. I always butcher the name, but around the payroll protection, I believe, payroll protection program, there you need to show what your average monthly payroll over the past 12 months has been. So, and then that times 2.5 is the amount that you can borrow against. That loan then would become a grant, if meaning you don't have to pay it back, if you have the same number of employees, as of, I believe the date is June 30th. If you have the same number of employees versus that average monthly amount of employees, of full-time equivalent employees that you borrowed against. This is still very, very fast moving. We are still getting guidance out about this. And so I don't want to say that all of this is written in stone, but I think this will be helpful. It's helpful if you can gather up your personal or your financial information for your small business rather, and your payroll information, it makes for a much easier conversation, a much quicker turnaround of funds as well.
Thank you, Clay. And thank you, Jean. I had planned on explaining some of that myself and decided it'd be better to just bring in my spouse since he's been on those calls with the federal government. So I appreciate you all, improvising with us. And I think we are ready to go to questions now. I really wanted to make sure we've got plenty of time to hear from you all. What questions can we answer to help you and your business at this time? And I know that we've got the chat box here. So if you will go and type your question into that chat, then we'll be able to answer as we are able. Have we got anything so far?
Yeah, so thank you, Councilor McKee. This is Connor Carroll of the Tulsa Chamber's Government Affairs team. As you said, we're going to now move into the Q&A portion. Ask questions in the chat if you have them. We have had a couple come through already, including a request for slides following this presentation, which we'll be sure to make sure that those are available to you all following this. But to kick us off, a lot are excited to hear about the response that the city has taken through the Navigator program and the new Resilience and Recovery Fund. We had a question come through the chat about those programs. Are these available to residents of Tulsa or folks operating small businesses in the city of Tulsa, even if they don't live in city limits? So I guess if someone operates a business in Tulsa city limits but doesn't live in city limits, can they still take advantage of those two new programs?
So thinking back through when we were writing the ordinance around it, it is that the business has to be located in the city of Tulsa.
Let's see. Okay, so another actually about the Navigator program. So Jean mentioned going straight to a lender for paycheck protection loans if you have an existing relationship. Is there a benefit for businesses that are already working through one of these programs? So either the economic injury disaster loan or the paycheck protection loan, is there still an incentive or benefit to using the Navigator program?
You know, what I would say is if the Navigator program, I think, is meant to help to clear up what can be a very confusing landscape on the federal, state, and local level. If you feel comfortable, particularly with the federal side, then I think that then you're doing great, quite frankly. We recognize that, you know, there's a lot of folks who are mystified by this process. I'm mystified by it myself sometimes. And so the one thing I would say is that there are still sources of aid that are becoming available. There are still private sources of aid. I saw one from Verizon just the other day that is offering small business grants. I know our navigators are primarily focusing on federal aid and on the local aid, and when state aid becomes more apparent what that will look like, then they'll also focus on that. But they are also spending time looking at what those private sector sources of aid might look like.
I've had some questions about the SBA loan program. Some have heard that the funds are extremely limited. Is that true?
Well, so the two programs each were funded with $349 billion on the federal level. So I'm not sure that I would say that they are limited. What I would say is that for the Paycheck Protection Program loans, there is a limited time in which you can apply for those funds. And my understanding is that they, when the program goes live, that those loans will be processed in the order in which they are received.
Clay, did you say there's a limited time frame? You cut out a little bit on my end. A little bit limited time frame in which you can apply for those funds?
Right. So the Paycheck Protection Program is really meant to serve as a temporary aid for businesses who might otherwise have to let go of employees, for them to retain those employees. So that program, as I understand it now, and again, this is very much a fast-moving target, they are accepting applications through June 30th of 2020.
Yeah.
And I should mention there that if a business reduces the number of employees or reduces their payroll costs by cutting compensation, but hire those employees back by that June 30th date, then the loan is still forgivable. That would be, let's see, to make sure I have the math right. So essentially they would need to, the amount of the loan that they would receive is based upon that average monthly payroll cost, based upon their average monthly head count. That is the number upon which they're going to be judged for forgiveness. So if a small business has 50 employees and they borrow funds against those 50 employees, they would need to get back to 50 FTE employees, or 50 employees, actually, I don't believe it's FTEs, 50 employees by June 30th in order for that loan to be forgiven. It doesn't necessarily have to be the same people who are employed. We recognize that there's going to be quite a lot of shakeup in the job market, but in terms of numbers, yes, they would need to get back. If they were only able to get to 40 employees, then 20% of the loan would not be forgiven, is my understanding of this. Again, the guidance is still working its way through.
Yeah, and I'm hearing that from you and from what Jean was saying. I think much in the same way that our knowledge about the virus is evolving as science gives us more information about, for instance, this weekend, we hope to hear finally from the CDC about whether or not healthy people should be wearing masks. We keep getting more information, and I think that that's going to happen here as well. If it becomes useful for us to do a regular webinar like this to keep updating on the information, I'm certainly open to doing that. So yeah, what other questions do we have?
So quite a few specifics about Paycheck Protection Program. So I have one question that's about an employer that doesn't have traditional employees, but they have independent contractors. They need assistance with rent, some other expenses, so they can stay open and have the contractors come back to the shop later on. What are the best types of loans to look at? Hopefully low to no interest rate, so maybe not Paycheck Protection. Is there anything you can recommend there?
So this is another part of the fast-moving nature. There was actually just a change made with regard to independent contractors, and I would need to look into this more. I would say this is an opportunity to go through the navigators, because they are getting trained up on questions just like this. But what I would say in terms of the federal aid, at least, is you also have the Economic Injury Disaster Loans Program. Now that loan is being done through the SBA. You would apply directly on the SBA website, as opposed to the Paycheck Protection Program, where you are applying through an SBA approved lender. So if you're looking more for working capital loans, then the Economic Injury Disaster Loan is probably more right for you than the Paycheck Protection Program loan.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we've also had some questions about timing of Paycheck Protection Loan fund distribution. I mean, that's pretty critical for a lot of businesses right now. They're hanging their hat on the funds that'll come through there. So Have you heard anything about, when those funds will be distributed or when they could expect some kind of relief there?
I think that is still a bit up in the air. The Paycheck Protection Program loans are meant to get out very quickly, are meant to maintain, for employers to be able to maintain payroll. So there's very much the intent for those loans to get out. Like I said, the program is we're still receiving guidance on what the program is supposed to look like, and it should be going live very soon. Now that program is going to go through SBA approved excuse me, going to go through SBA approved banks. And so there it's more the relationship that you're going to have with your bank, as opposed to the economic injury disaster loans where you are borrowing money from the SBA, and that money is being sent directly from the Treasury. And I should say, I just received a note from Elizabeth Osborne, who's the head of government relations at the Chamber, saying that independent contractors will get unemployment assistance from the federal government starting April 6th. It will be a $600 a week portion, and you'll apply at the state level, which you can link to at our City of Tulsa coronavirus resource page. And furloughed employees are eligible for that.
We have a question about the Tulsa Resilience Fund. Looks like someone submitted a request on Wednesday. When could they expect a response for the next step?
Yeah, so we are actually just looking now, just taking our sort of first pass. I'll say, quite frankly, we really have seen a huge number of responses, and we are very much trying to work through those as quickly as possible. The more people can do to sort of prepare before we have those conversations, the quicker and the better those conversations, I think, are able to go. I know the team right now is working through those. I can't necessarily say where any one person's place is in line, but we have a dedicated team of I think 6 or 7 folks just working on this. So we are trying to get through them as quickly as possible.
There's been some questions about how you report tax-wise on some of these funds. So say you get a paycheck protection loan, do you report those funds as income? How do you report the forgiven portion, or as well as the economic injury disaster loan? There's that $10,000 cash advance. If you're not approved, for that loan, you get to keep that $10,000 cash advance regardless. How do you process that on your taxes later on?
That's I think that is sort of a second order effect that we are just starting to think through right now. To be quite honest, I'm not sure exactly if that gets reported as income, if the forgiven portion gets reported as income. I think that is very much a part of, we're still sort of getting the guidance as we're going around what the tax implications of this are going to be. But I would anticipate that, you will receive, as a result of signing up on Tulsa Responds, you will get linked up with a navigator, but this is also a portal through which we can maintain regular conversations with folks to ensure that you stay on top of what the tax implications look like, for example. But that's just, I'm sure that information is out there. I have not delved deep into it, but I also know that it is very much, like I said, this is a very much fast moving target.
Clay, do I understand correctly then that linking up with a navigator at the city level will give you access to ongoing information, someone who's connected specifically with your business? Is that what you were saying?
So we intend to use this really as, having collected folks' information, we recognize that we are going to need to maintain communication, and this is probably going to look like, hey, this new guidance came out around the tax implications of this. So I would anticipate that being the channel that we use for staying up to date with what the implications, for example, the tax implications of accepting federal or local aid are.
Would there be other information that you all are sending out as well, or just about the tax implications specifically?
I'm sure we will certainly be considering other information as it comes along, other programs. There is certainly word that this will not be the last aid package that comes out. As we saw with the Paycheck Protection Program, this program's only meant to cover 2.5 months worth of payroll, and we very well might be in this situation for longer than 2.5 months. So yes, I would anticipate that we'll have more communication around other topics like that when it comes out, but that's just, it's difficult to foresee what this might look like in the future.
Yes, indeed. That we're all starting to have to get used to that uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Connor, what other questions do we have?
Let's see. Okay, so some people are saying that banks have refused to process the Paycheck Protection loans, that the government has opened this program, but banks are being the gatekeeper at this point in time. This person in particular asked if there may be a list of banks that are going to be on taking these Paycheck Protection loans to help businesses. And I will actually just chime in on a chamber perspective there. We are working on developing a list of businesses, of lenders in the Tulsa area that are distributing Paycheck Protection loans. We have that almost ready to go. It's going to go out in just a little bit today. But also there's some other information that will be posted along with that resource document at tulsachamber.com on our COVID-19 resource page. But Clay, do you have any guidance on that, about banks?
Yeah.
Which ones will be issuing these rather than others?
Yeah, so I would say that the banks are not saying they are not going to be lending, be making payroll protection program loans. I think at this point they are still waiting for guidance before they begin issuing those loans. I have yet to hear of any SBA approved lender who has said that they are not going to be issuing those. I think right now it's just such a fluid situation. I saw guidance come out last night, for example, and the program technically is supposed to be going live today. I expect we'll continue to see guidance coming out. But no, I appreciate you mentioning the Chamber's website. I also should have mentioned the Chamber's website when talking about local resources. The Chamber has a lot of information, especially geared towards small businesses, much more so I think than the city has, but really working in tandem, I think we really are able to put a lot of information front and center for folks.
I should have mentioned that too, cobbling together the slides yesterday. I also neglected to put the chamber, the Tulsa Regional Chamber in there, but I've just asked Marissa to add those in before we send out the slides, so you all will have access to that in there as well.
No, yeah, thank you both for plugging that. We appreciate that. We're absolutely working to get those documents out and assistance for sure. I know when you were talking about those tax revisions, I think that's a great way we can step in. We've done a lot of research, but don't necessarily have a document developed right now, but I think that is the great, kind of next step for us to do. But yeah, for all of those that are interested in looking for one of those loans, if you don't have a bank in mind or you're not sure if your bank is participating, we will have a resource document with banks that are currently participating up on our website today. And then there will also be an option for banks in the future to add their information to that list as well too. So in the Paycheck Protection Loan Program, there actually is a provision where non-7A lenders can become authorized just to list these paycheck protection loans. So we expect, though some may start processing loans today, there may even be more that come online in the next couple weeks. So keep an eye on the Chamber's list, and we will continue to update that and provide some more information about those tax implications once you actually do receive those loans. Let's see. It looks like one of our Small Business Connection members made a point to mention that some banks are only helping their existing customers first, or they're helping their current customers. So you may need to set up a new account with an SBA approved bank, just an FYI, if anyone's working through that process. Other questions we're seeing. Oh, okay. So if with the new federal forgivable loan, so the Paycheck Protection Loan Program, if all or a portion of the loans are not forgiven, what are the terms of one of those loans? So the interest rate, the personal guarantees, what does that look like?
Yeah, so those loans, and I will have to do a quick look just to make sure that I'm not confusing those two. But Connor or Elizabeth, if I misspeak, please correct me. But my understanding is those loans are for a term of 2 years, and the interest rate on those loans is 0.5%.
Evidently, it's been changed to 1%. Did that happen yesterday?
Oh, well.
It just happened yesterday. Yeah.
Yes, it speaks to how fast this is moving. There you go.
I will add to that. I think there's a 6-month deferment on any payment there as well too. So any interest or any payment on principal, that would be deferred for 6 months, and
Yep.
the same would apply to the economic injury disaster loan too. So I am scanning for some more questions. I think we have a couple more. I believe this one's about the Paycheck Protection Program. It says, will full health insurance premiums be covered by the 25% or only the employer paid portion? For example, this person pays 50% of their employees' health insurance.
So I think what that's referencing is with the Paycheck Protection Program loan, you have to 75% of that has to go towards payroll expenses. I know that healthcare expenses are included within that. I'm not sure exactly how that's calculated. Again, just saw from Senator Langford's office some information come out from the banking committee, and so I think we would probably need to dig into that a little bit more.
I see this other question. Seems like for the payroll protection program, you get a small amount without collateral, but if you want more, you do have to have collateral.
I believe the uncollateralized portion is 25,000. Now, again, correct me if I'm speaking about if that's about the EIDL or the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, Connor or Elizabeth, but I believe that was the amount around, or the uncollateralized amount around that loan.
My daughter has an opinion on it. And that's something we can double check and get back when we send an email out to everyone with the slides as well, if it turns out that was incorrect. But yeah.
Okay, so we still have a couple questions trickling in. If you guys have any more, please send them in right now.
If I can,
here's
just
one.
thing.
Oh, sorry.
The collateral is for the EIDL the economic injury disaster loans. That is not the forgivable loan through the SBA that you would get through your lender. That is the loan that you apply for directly from the SBA.
So as I was saying, if you have any more questions, please feel free to send them in. We have a couple more I'm going to get to. So for the resilience recovery loans, is there a consideration for seasonal small businesses? For example, one that doesn't meet the requirements for February and March decline, but does from March 2019 to March 2020?
Yeah, year-on-year comparisons, we would absolutely consider those.
I am not seeing any more questions at this point in time, but I really do appreciate the perspective you guys gave today, and I think it'll be really helpful to the small businesses in your district in particular, Councilor. But as both of you said, we'll absolutely distribute these slides after this presentation, and we'll provide some further resources for you all too, and hopefully try to answer any questions that were kind of left up in the air today. But if you guys have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to the counselor, feel free to reach out to Clay or us here at the chamber. We're all happy to help you work through these new programs and figure them out alongside. So with that, thanks again for joining us today. Anyone who came in late, or if you'd like to share this call, the entirety of it will be posted on the Chamber's website soon.
Thank you, Connor. And before we end, I just want to also give a shout out to Jeff Martin at Magic City Books. He was actually the one that suggested to me that it might be a good idea to do a call with small businesses. The Chamber has been a great partner with this, as well as the mayor's office. And now that we have all of your emails, if we decide to do another one of these, I'll make sure that we contact all of you and help us spread the word. There are a lot of businesses struggling out there, and we are absolutely all in this together. Please tune into the mayor's press conference today at noon. You can find that on the City of Tulsa Facebook page, as well on most major news stations. We've got more information coming out every day. Hang in there, and as Connor said, don't hesitate to contact us if you have ideas or concerns that we can help with.